episode 3 of the Connected podcast with your host, John Rios. Super excited to bring this episode to you guys. Have one of my great friends, my soul sister, Victoria Mendez. She's a loan officer out in LA, and her and I recently connected, I want to say about 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years. And huge inspiration to me, Latina businesswoman doing really big things in her market. And excited to bring this conversation to you guys. So without further ado, want to introduce my guest, Victoria. Victoria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. Super excited today.
Of course. So Victoria, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, who you are.
Yeah, man. So, I am a female entrepreneur, like you shared. I'm a mom, a wife. I have an amazing team that supports me. And I'm a loan officer, born and raised out of California, out of the LA market. And a little bit about me, as you mentioned, is, I used to work corporate before I got into this mortgage world, and I did that for 15 years. I worked in the banking system, went through the red tape, went through everything that you could think of as far as being from a bank teller all the way up to a corporate sales trainer. And I got tired, John. I got really, really tired of, going and traveling, taking time away from my family for a good 6 figures, right? Not a bad living, but I said, there's gotta be more. So that's when then I looked at all the lines of businesses that I worked in the banking system and said, which one was my favorite? And my favorite was being able to tell somebody they didn't have to worry about what color their walls are in order for them to get their security deposit back. Being able to tell them, hey, if you see something on HGTV and you want a honey-do list for your husband, go make him do it now because the home is yours. So for me, that was what was really gratifying. And, I had the opportunity to go into the mortgage world. And I said, hey, okay, great. When I looked at everybody in the mortgage landscape, I said, who was a leader that could support me? Who could provide an inclusive environment? Who could help and support me grow in the way that I wanted to grow? And there weren't very many options. So what I did is I created it. And I started with a tiny little 300 square foot office, no realtor, no database, no nothing, and just pure grit, and said, hey, I've got 8 hours to kill just like I would in corporate. And long story short, fast forward 4 years, I have an amazing team. We helped over 200 families last year. And I've had some pretty cool awards, top originator, top woman originator, top 250 NAREP. So again, really amazing trajectory, and I couldn't do it without the help of my team, my family.
I think you won a Scotsman Award too, right? Let's not forget that.
A Scotsman top originator, Scotsman top woman originator. So it's been a pretty cool ride.
I only interview stars here, so I don't let people come here and sell themselves short. You got to tell them exactly what you do and how you do it and how well you do it.
For sure.
Well, listen, Vic. So one of the things that I wanted to do with this podcast, the premise of me creating this podcast is, as you know, myself personally, I'm not a college graduate. I'm barely a high school graduate. And I've had a ton of success. And when I look back and attribute or try to pinpoint what exactly I can attribute that success to, it's always been back to meaningful relationships, right? It's always gone back to a high level of intentional networking and connecting with meaningful people and really building rapport. That has gotten me into doors that I can't even imagine a master's degree could have gotten me into. So How do you feel about that in your business? How does that incorporate into your business, the networking and connecting aspect of your business?
I'm glad you asked, John, because that was the whole basis of how I grew, was through networking. So again, right, I was in a small 300 square foot office, just me by myself, only grit. And what I went to networking events. I had to get myself out to know people. I had to build meaningful relationships, like actually genuinely care about how to be of service for people in the industry. And it wasn't until then that I received those relationships back, whether it was, talking about their day. Like some people, we go through the day and not even ask people, how are you doing? Like not just
Mm-hmm.
the regular answer of, oh, I'm good, but the how are you doing? What's new in your life? Asking just the simple questions like that, and then taking an interest in, tell me about your kids. How'd you get into the industry? What made you get into the industry? Everyone has a story, and just taking the time to listen to the story for me was crucial. And that's what I teach my team. That's what I still live by. But it's also to embracing the relationships. Like in the beginning, I was also very standoffish. Like it was very service only. It wasn't really caring, or it didn't evolve into anything beyond that. And as I went through my journey of entrepreneurship, I realized, no, I genuinely need to care about these people and these
Yeah.
relationships that I'm building, right? Because that's what separates you from the other guy that's just asking, how's your day going, and taking okay for an answer, right? But the ones that actually stand out, for me, that was huge. And to your point, right, it opened doors that I would have never have had. Building a relationship in the coaching program had me build a relationship with you, which is why I'm here today,
Mm-hmm.
right? Building a team, having relationships, caring about who they are, what they are, where they come from, it's huge. And, I think it's understated why people don't do relationships, especially now. We just had COVID, where we went through this whole quarantine pandemic, and now people are seeing how valuable relationships are, whether it was through Zoom, whether it's through FaceTime, whether it's through person to person. So I think it's a huge asset that I think is undervalued.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do here. Was super important for me because I think that it's a huge missing component that doesn't really get talked about much in our industry. They'll talk about how you got to get out there and cold call, or you got to learn your scripts, or how you got to learn how to lead gen or build a business. But it's like nobody's teaching basic fundamental things like creating relationships, building rapport with people, actually coming from a place of contribution to help people to in turn organically grow your business. So thank you for sharing that. Um, Vic, so one of the things for me that I struggled with mentally and and I would say spiritually as well, coming into the business, right, was I had all these stories, I had all these narratives. I'm from the hood. I'm Latino. I've been arrested. I have all of these different things in my head that are why I'm not going to be successful, as to why I'm not going to be able to attain the level of success that I wanted to, right? And I can only imagine that as a woman and a Latino woman coming into an industry that is predominantly male,
Mm-hmm.
but also we don't see many minority women in this space that do well. So talk to me a little bit about that. How's that been? What's that been like as a Scotsman's Guide winner, being a woman in this industry?
It's an asset, to be honest, because people don't see me coming. I'm a Latina, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. So as a mom, I should be home, right? So there's all these paradigms that we're taught, or society teaches us. You're a mom, you should stay at home or be with your kids, or you get mom shamed, or you're a woman, you shouldn't, you should stay quiet. It goes with, especially as a Latina, right? Más bonita, calladita,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, hey, you're definitely a lot prettier, quiet. And so I had to shift through those stories. It was uncomfortable. I had to say, no, because I'm a Latina and there isn't so many people in my industry, I need to show them what's possible. I need to show my daughters what's possible. I need to show myself what's possible, right? And for me, failure was never an option. There are road bumps, right? Okay, I failed. All right, well, what did I learn? What do I need to tweak? And then boom, so for me, I think it's a great asset to have versus a story that we tell ourselves, because nothing bad happens, John, when we make more money.
Mm.
Nothing. Nothing bad happens when we make more money. And I think we're taught, especially in the Hispanic community, if you make more money, you got to hide it. Or if you make more money, something bad's going to happen. Or if you make more money, don't tell your tios and your tias because they're going to ask you for a loan, right? So I think it's good breaking past that level of success of the paradigm of what is success. I remember breaking my first 100K, and in my family, 100K was the marker. Like that was it. So when I passed it, and there was this level of uncomfortableness. There was this level of stopping. Like I literally wouldn't show up. I'd show up at the office at like 10 o'clock, and I was like, I'm good. I hit my tier. And so then I started asking, like, no, there's got to be more. Like, how do these people get rich? How do these people hit 1 million, hit 2 million? So I started asking, here's where the connection works, right? With the networking. I started asking people that were doing better than I was. I was asking people that made millions. And I said, how do you still stay motivated? How do you come into the office at 7:30 every morning? And I remember one really good friend of mine said, you know what, Vic? What I do is I am the richest, poorest person. I take the 10,000 that I need to make for payroll. Everything else I hide in a separate account. Guess what? When you open up that online banking and you see only 10,000 in that account and you have $9,000 worth of bills, you're going to get up at 7:30 in the morning. You're going to keep pushing past those paradigms, past that programming, spiritually and physically. So, and you're going to build wealth. And so now what do you do with that wealth, right? And so again, it goes back to having those connections, being able to get ahead. And that genuinely, John, is the connections is what helped me get to Scotsman. It wasn't something, it was always a dream of mine. I remember going through the magazines and looking. It's like Scotsman, for those of you that don't know, it's like the Forbes of lending. And I would go through and look and see, one day my name is going to be on that list. One day. And I've had that one day 2 years in a row, right? And not only in one category, but 2 categories. And again, it's all been on what I've learned along the way with the network, with the connections, with asking the people around me who are doing better than me.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that, right? Because it almost becomes like we break through a ceiling, we break through one ceiling, and then I don't know about you, but for me it was like I had the same experience, right? You make your first 6 figures, and it's like, okay, so I'm here. Do I just put my feet up and chill, or what's the next thing that we do? So I hear that you achieved these things. You wanted to see yourself in this magazine. So what continues to motivate you to go beyond that? Once you
Great question.
those things, what makes you say, I hit it? What do you stop? What makes you keep going?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. It takes the same amount of effort and energy to hit your first 6 figures as it does to hit your first 7 figures. And now I'm going for 8. So the behaviors don't change. The getting up in the morning, the going to the gym, the meditating, the journaling, the working on your business and your craft, the building relationships, none of that changes from milestone to milestone to milestone. So I think, once people realize, hey, once I hit 6 figures, it's easy to get to 7. I just do the same thing, just with massive action. So I get massive results. So for me now, it's like, well, if I can do 1 million, why can't I do 10? There's nothing stopping me anymore. And I saw how easy, or not easy, but how simple it could be to hit 100,000, to hit 1 million. So now I know, hey, I needed my team to get from 100,000 to 1 million. Now I need my team to help me get to an even bigger team, right? An even bigger network to help me get from 1 million to 10 million. And for me, what motivates me is teaching my girls. I have 2 girls, 2 Latina girls, what is possible, right? Like, you're doing it for those that can't, those that won't, and those that don't. And so I think that when you sit in that frequency, or when you sit in that space, why wouldn't you? Like, the universe doesn't care how many zeros we want. Nothing bad happens when we make more money. So why wouldn't I go for 10?
For sure. And then hitting those milestones, they almost feel, I don't want to say meaningless, but it's almost like, oh, that was easy. I can level up higher beyond that. So thank you for sharing that. So another thing was, you know, for me, I could remember so vividly what drove me into real estate, right? I also had a pretty decent career, but I hated what I did. I was in corporate as well. I hated what I did. I hated getting up and going to work every day. And my wife was like, hey, you should try real estate. We were literally in bed, like watching $1 Million Listing. And she was like, you should try real estate. You'd be so good at this. And it wasn't even a thought in my mind. It was just like, yeah, all right, whatever. And she kept hammering it, like, you know, you should try this, you should try it, you should try it. And I'm so grateful for that because it wasn't even a thought in my mind at the time. It wasn't even anything that I had an interest in at the time. But when I really started realizing what it actually took to sell real estate successfully, I was like, oh, you're right. You're onto something. I can do this. So for you, what do you think was that initial like click in your head? Was it a person? Was it an incident? Was it something that said, I could do this. I could do it at a high level. I want to do this. What was that for you?
Yeah, for me, so as I mentioned, I did corporate training. And corporate training, for those of us that don't know it, requires a lot of travel. And so I covered 23 states. I did it for 5 years in that role. And I remember, John, like my husband would have to put me on FaceTime sitting in the chair to watch my daughter's ballet rehearsal or ballet performance because I couldn't be there. I was in another state. And I was in another state at least 2 weeks out of the month. So hotels were my friends. I had different spaces. And, you know, the first year you're like, yes, I get to go to New York, Miami. Second year, you're like, okay, I could go to New York or Miami. By the third year, I'm saying, John, do you want to take New York or Miami? Because I just
Yeah.
want to go. And so when I realized there's got to be more out there, that's when I started looking. And I started looking, and I had a friend in the business that said, hey, come on over. And he did really, really well for himself. And he's like, look, you know, went to this fancy, you know, $2-3 million mansion, looked at all his fancy, you know, cars. And he's like, look, you could do this. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, just take a lot of your corporate skills. And that's something that we undervalue too, is
For sure.
everything that corporate teaches us. He's like, take it and you can easily make 6 figures. Really? And you can own your own time. Really? And you don't have to answer to anybody. Really? And I don't have to meet any numbers, just your own. And that was that moment. And I went home, my husband and I, we had dinner with him. We went home and he's like, you can do it. I said, are you sure? Like, this is me burning the boats. Like, there is no more salary. There is no more paycheck every 15th and every 30th. Like, this is it. So we saved up for 6 months. And that's when then afterwards I said, all right, I'm going to give it a year. If I can't do it in a year and make my salary of what I was making, then what's the worst that could happen? I can go back to banking. I already built a resume. What's the worst that could happen? I take a year sabbatical. So I did. And I never looked back. Now that corporate can't afford me. So
that's the shit I like to hear.
yeah.
That's the shit I like to hear. Because
I don't go back.
Because honestly, when I first started my career, and I have a question based off of what you just said, but when I first started my career, I had this, like in my first year and a half or so, I was shitting myself because I was like, oh man, like, you know, in New York, sometimes deals can take 6, 7, 8, 9, 57 months to close.
What I hear.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So for me, I had another aha moment when I went back to corporate. I took a full-time job working back at the hospital, and I was like, I'm gonna do real estate part-time and see how this goes. And I literally lasted, I want to say a month, maybe a month and a half when I went back into the corporate role. And they gave me a great position, great money. And just off of the training alone, like this woman was like, put your phone away and she was like, you know, at noon, go grab your lunch. And I was like, wait, what? No, no. I was like, I can't. I'm done with this.
You
So,
drank Kool-Aid.
what's that?
You drank the Kool-Aid,
Oh
John.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I remember I was like, I was saying to myself on my lunch break, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And then one of the things that you just said, right, that I think is so important is you said you spoke to your husband about it, and you guys came up with a plan, and you saved for 6 months, and then you went and pursued it, right? And I think that that's something that when I'm mentoring students, or when I'm mentoring people to come into real estate, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that you have to have that plan, right? So in addition to having that plan for, let's say, reserve money for 6 months or whatever it may be, what else would you say to someone who's brand new? Hey, Vic, I want to become an LO. What should I do? How should I start? Aside from getting the class and doing the class, what would you say is the most important thing for them to do?
So first and foremost, I would say, right, again, we're all talking about tribe and network, right? Being connected. So first and foremost, if you have a significant other, make sure you guys are on the same page. Make sure you're on the same page with your kids, because going into this business is going to take time. It's going to take weekends, right? In real estate, most people are off during the weekends. So guess what? That's when you're on. And that may take, from your routine that your family's used to out of their comfort zone. So having that conversation with them, right? Also having the conversation with, friends, because you're going to miss out on parties. If you really want to do this successfully, you're going to miss out on some club nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a post recently that I saw, and it's a poster that I ordered for the office, and it says, I don't see you at the club anymore. Well, I also don't see you at the bank,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So again, being able to understand you are going to miss out on those moments if you want to do this successfully. Paying your bills, the second thing I would say is pay your bills 2 months in advance. So have that 6 months reserves and pay your bills 2 months in advance, because we know there's a 60 day cycle, sometimes 90. Pay your bills up so that you don't feel this commission breath or this pressure to have to hold on to every single deal, because otherwise I can't pay my electric bill, right?
Yeah.
So having the reserve, having the, being able to pay 2 months. And when you get a commission check, put that away. Take whatever you need and put it away, so that way it can help you for the next time that you may have a longer transaction. Pay your bills 2 months in advance, whether it's your car payment, your credit card, have a separate account for it. This is it. And start putting that money away, because I see it a lot in our industry, John, where they get a commission. They love to live the high life. They go bottle service. They go at the club. They make four,
Mm-hmm.
5,000, 10,000, $20,000 a commission. They buy their new Gucci
That,
suit.
that was me.
They buy a new Gucci suit and they're ready to go. And then they're like, hey, I'm chilling for 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month. And then Mr. Bill comes up, Mr. Credit Card Bill comes up and shows them everything that their high life has done. And they got to go back. And now they're broke. And now they sit on this hamster wheel cycle of this commission breath that unfortunately is very difficult to get off.
Yeah, for sure. I know exactly what that feels like. I remember actually um one of my very first closings that it was like I had never gotten that much money in one single check in my life.
Yeah.
And because it was so new to me, I took it almost like, oh, this is how it's gonna keep going. This is it. So I'm like, round up everybody, let's go. Like, we're gonna spend it. We're gonna have a good time. Drinks on me, drinks on you. Who want? And it's a very harsh reality, right? It's a tough concept to grasp. So but I say that to say this, and it's a perfect segue for my next question was that personally a lot of my struggles, a lot of the things that I've been through. And I think that think that every entrepreneur has either a profound incident or an experience or even a season of their career that is just so dark, it's so rough, it's so tumultuous that it either breaks you and you're out the business and you're back in corporate, or it builds you back up, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I had that experience where it was like I'm coasting, everything is great, business is great, I got money in my bank account, my credit score is up, I'm doing everything the right way, and then boom, I get derailed, right?
Yeah.
And initially it took me down. It took me down mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna recover for this. I'm broke. I have nothing. What am I gonna do? And now looking back, it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So what do you feel was that experience for you? What was that like?
So we want to go surface level, or we're going to go deep with it?
No, we're gonna go deep. We want to go deep. We want to go
All
deep
right.
here.
So for me, it was about 2 years ago. And, I was doing everything right, John. I was checking the boxes. I was making six figures. I was working. I had a really big book of business, and I was working long hours. And in my mind, I thought I was the woman. Like in my mind, working 12 to 15 hours a day was a badge of honor because, right, in the Latin culture, you're raised with you have to work. Tienes que trabajar. You have to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, I would go in, John. I would go in at 7:30 in the morning before my kids got up. Go in, go to work, leave at 5, come home, make dinner, go back at 9, and finish at 1 a.m. And I thought I was winning, right? And I got home in time to kiss them good morning, got home in time to kiss them good night. And I was doing that constantly for at least 2 years. John, I even had $150,000 in commission checks sitting in my purse because I didn't have time to go to the bank because I was meeting clients. So, but again, had a house, had a nice car, had the money, everything. And I just was burnt out. I was like, there's gotta be more. My husband's like, where's my wife? My kids are, where's my mom? And at the time I didn't really have a team. It was just me. And I was just burning out. So I said, there's got to be more. And that's when then I started my work with plant medicine. And so it was through plant medicine that I had the aha moments. I was like, look, like, just show me something. And it was through plant medicine that I learned how powerful relationships and networking is, right? The fact that, and what I realized was I wasn't receiving the support. The support was there. Support from my husband, support from myself, support from my friends, support from my family, from even people that wanted to work with me. The support was there. I just pushed it all away because I thought I needed to be the strong, independent Latina. No, I can do it on my own. And it was through plant medicine that showed me, hey, there's just as much strength and power of creating and working hard as receiving and giving. And when I was able to identify that receiving wasn't a weakness, receiving was a strength, that's when then all of my relationships changed. From where I started hiring new people, I started looking at the team that I currently had built and said, oh my goodness, you guys are amazing for sticking with me. Let me give you more. Oh my goodness, my kids love me, like truly, truly love me as mom. Let me give them more of me back. My husband, dude, he weathered the storm. Like, let me give back to him. Let me go back and love me first so that I can love all these relationships, so that I can receive the love from these relationships. And it was then, John, that then took my business from $150,000 a year to $1.5 million in 1 year. And that's the difference of the power. And it wasn't that the relationships changed. It wasn't that the people changed. It was that I changed. I changed how I valued these relationships. I changed how I was receiving these relationships. And so for me, if it wasn't through plant medicine, John, it takes you like from 0 to 100. It's like 10 years of
Boom, you're there.
therapy in one session, right? And you have no choice but to surrender. There is no control. And so those beautiful lessons in what I learned about surrendering, about allowing people to help, about allowing people to be in your tribe, to be in those relationships and receive the love and the support, that for me was the game changer. And that I stopped working weekends. I didn't have to anymore. I had a team there to support me that I relied on. And in turn, their business grew. And in turn, my family got their mom back and their wife back because I have weekends off, right? I work from home some days. Like all of the dreams that an entrepreneur should have, I was able to work through and now have, versus before the grind, hustle, hustle, hustle. And it was just because I leaned on the actual relationships that were already around me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that that's something that is really missing, right? Especially in today's society. You know, my son, he's 19 years old. He'll be 20. I love him to death. I hope he listens to this. There's something in society right now in social media that is constantly pushing this grind till you're dead, grind till you're fucking tired, just kill yourself for the dream.
Yeah.
And there's not many people that are saying that when you do the work on yourself, when you take care of yourself, when you go inward and you do that work, you don't have to grind. Things just start showing up. The right relationships start showing up. The right people start coming into your life because you're on a different frequency. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough. We don't have enough people that are saying that. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because that's huge, right? So one of the other things that that I had wanted to ask you was, you know, for somebody that is thinking about buying a home, right? Because with the community that we come from, and this is very generational trauma, right? For years around money, around work, like we discussed, and around home ownership, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's so vital for us, not just as an example of successful Latina professionals, to be an example, but to also say, hey, like this thing, this home ownership thing, this can happen for you, right?
Yep.
You can do this. And I think that, you know, the trauma is so deep that it's like it's a challenge for us to get through to them, to our people, right? Like the number one thing I always hear is like, I'll post something about buying a home and I'll get my people to respond to me and say, I'm going to message you when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Hold on. Do you know when you're going to be ready? Do you know what it takes to be ready? Do you know what ready means? Because if not, then you end up pushing that off and pushing that off. So what do you feel like has been some of the hurdles, so to speak? Matter of fact, what would you say for someone that is in that mindset of thinking that they have a decent job, they don't make all the money in the world, but they have a decent job, they have a decent credit score, they would love to attain a home, but it seemed like such a far-fetched idea to them? What
Yeah.
would you say to that
You
person?
know, I get that a lot. Like, especially, I mean, and that's just, again, generationally, whether they're Latino, Latina, non-Latino, Latina, doesn't matter, right? First time buyers, second time buyers, they've been scorned through a market crash. I get it a lot. And the first thing that I have to share with people is you don't know until you try. And you don't know until you get educated. And so I think that twofold. Number one, people in our industry, such as realtors, such as loan officers, need to be educated in the market. Like, you need to be good at your job. That's like saying, oh, you know, going to a doctor and, well, what's wrong with me, doc? I'm here for a physical. And the doctor doesn't even know what's going on in the market. They don't even know that, you know, diseases exist, right? So number one, I think it goes back to professionals, picking the right professional. And those professionals doing well at what their job is, right? Number two, for a person that is interested in looking, get educated, ask questions. You know, we Google WebMD like, oh, my finger hurts, and all of a sudden something's, you know, your limb's about to fall off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get with the right professional. Ask questions. Like nothing, you lose nothing by asking questions about, hey, am I ready? The other question I get a lot too, John, is when's the right time to buy? You know, I want the right time to buy. And my answer is always the same. The right time to buy is when you can afford to buy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether the rates are low, the rates are high, the prices are low, the prices are high. If you don't have good wealth management, good finances, you know, maybe your credit wasn't good in the beginning. And, you know, I was a college person too. My credit wasn't good. I signed up for those little, you know, get a basketball hoop, you get a credit card, and nobody taught me how to look at credit, right? And
Yeah.
I was there too. But one person told me, he was like, look, by you hiding from your credit doesn't solve your credit. So go back, find out, talk to the experts. So for me, I think it's really the right time to buy is when you're ready. Educate yourself, and also, you know, find the expert, find the professional in your area.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we see that all the time, right? I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of posting things on social media that everyone else is posting, because 9 out of 10 times these guys aren't really doing their homework.
Yeah.
We've been talking about a shifting market for months. The shift is already here. It's already it already shifted. We're in it. We're in it. It's not still shifting. It's in it. So that's so important that you say that, to definitely get in touch with a professional on both sides, on the lending side and on the real estate side as well. So with that said, what is next for Victoria Mendez? What's next for Downtown Financial Group? What's on the radar? What's on the horizon? What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, John, I told you we got to get to 10 mil, right? I hit the one, and we got to get to 10 mil. So, you know, LA, we're heavily based out of California. What's next is we're headed to your market, John.
Oh shit, are you?
We're coming to New York. We'll be officially live July 15th. So we're coming to the market to service. You know, one thing that I noticed in looking at expansion markets is number one, what type of demographics out there? Number two, what type of demographics within the industry, like loan officers, realtors, are there? And I didn't see very many Hispanic loan officers. And so I saw, you know, Hispanic realtors, but not a lot of Hispanic loan officers. And there's such a great community out there to be serviced. Why not, right? And in California, you get hammered if you're closing in 30 days as opposed to your 21. So I'm excited to see how New York welcomes me, and how we can, you know, close deals in New York, help families get into homes faster so they're not paying 3 or 4 months more worth of rent while they're waiting for their home on the market. And so we'll be building out a team out of New York. We'll be building out some relationships there as well. And I'm super excited. The team's super excited too to see what New York has to offer the LAians.
That is awesome. We are definitely looking forward to it as well. Anything that can soften the blow of me having to tell my clients, hey, this may take 6 months, is a huge upside for us. And you know, it definitely is a market where we're underrepresented. So we definitely are looking forward to having you guys out here. But Vic, before I let you go, one quick thing, one fun fact about you that people may or may not know, something interesting that we want to know a little bit more about you. What's one fun fact that you could share with us?
Fun fact. It's interesting. So we said we were going to go deep. So, you know, I'm going to keep that the theme. One fun fact is I'm a medium. So a lot of people don't know that. And I embody both the spiritual and the entrepreneurship. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. And I also speak 4 languages. A lot of people don't know that. So fun fact. But actually, before we go, John, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could go back, let's say you had a time machine and you could go back, now knowing what you know, to John who first started his career, what would you tell that John?
Oh my God, I'd tell that guy a lot. I'd tell him a lot. But if there's one thing that I could tell him, it would be it's gonna be scary, but do it anyway. Because everything that I've taken on in this business has been that, right? From going from solo agent to starting a team. I mean, even doing this podcast. This podcast was something that I wanted to do for 2 years. And it's not right. I don't have this. I don't have the camera. I don't have. It was always some story. And every time that I've just jumped and done it, things have worked out. So I don't have to figure out. I would tell him in a nutshell, don't worry about the how, just focus on the why, and everything will fall into place.
There it is.
Thank you for that question. And I'm going to ask you the same. What would you tell younger Vic just getting started? From what you know now?
Oh, for me, lean on the people around you. Like, build a tribe, build a community. I was so afraid of building a community, and I was so afraid to ask people for help. I was so afraid to ask that $1 million producer, how did you do it? I was so afraid of that. Just ask. People are willing to help no matter what. Don't be so proud in your ego to not ask for help and think you have to carry the world on your shoulders. So for me, it's staying connected and building the relationships, John. Like, exactly embodying what you bring to this podcast is that. Like, lean into those relationships, and the good ones, right? Not the toxic ones. I'm not talking about the ones where, they make you cry all the time or second guess yourself. I'm talking about lean into the relationships and build relationships with people outside of your normal scope that are going to make you feel uncomfortable, but yet inspire you.
For sure. Thank you. That was a great answer. Vic, I'm so happy to have had you here. Thank you so much for your time. For the people that are watching that don't know you, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you if they want to buy a home, they want to talk mortgage? Where do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm vcelestial1, and you can DM me, you can reach me there. For those of you that want to tap into my email, victoria@downtownfinancialgroup.com, and I'd be happy to help anybody that wants some help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Vic. We will see you soon in New York, right?
Yes, we will soon be there. So thank you so much for having me, John. It was super fun, exciting. And I hope that, I could be of contribution and service to your listeners and everyone watching.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.